TikTok, it's time to rock. Sorry for being late, folks. We just had a couple of technical issues that we were trying to sort out and discuss amongst this triumphant of tech experts. Rock Professor?
The triumvirate of tech experts. Well done. Yes.
Yes.
Some of us are more technical than others.
Yeah, do you know what Simon's advice was, folks? Do you want to know what Simon's? Pull it out, switch the plug off, pull the wires out, and plug it in again.
Start again.
Look, you can laugh. You can laugh, Mr. Walton.
That's a common thing when you go to my IT department at work and you say they just turn it off and start it again.
Do you know what they do in my IT department? They throw the fucking thing out the window.
Oh. Yeah. He's bloody sworn already. They were in trouble already. 1 minute in.
Out the window.
Having been, may I say, having been in an IT support department in the dim and distant past, I can tell you that that's always the first thing you do, is you go and you switch it off and you switch it back on again. You'd be amazed how many times. I can remember going to a meeting with some technical thing, and these big technical boys are all there going, "Ooh," and I said to them, "So you've switched it on, haven't you?" And they kind of start looking at each other and going, "What? What do you mean?" "Well, you have switched this thing on, haven't you?" Don't know. "Well, can you go away and have a look?" "No, they hadn't switched it on. That's why it wasn't working." Oh! Blooming idiot.
Awesome.
It's like
awesome.
It's like, no. So, you absolutely always start with turn it back on again. See often you do StreamYards and there's an issue. So you go out and come back in again and it's fixed.
Tip. Reset.
Yeah. Reset. No. Oh, don't say that. Don't say that word. Don't say that R word.
Oh, we can't say the R word, but he can
no
F
politics.
And blind all over the place. 150 in. Honestly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
One rule for us,
thanks,
Brad.
folks.
One rule for him.
Thanks, folks, for joining us as usual. It's a pleasure to be here on the Sunday show with you guys. We've got a great album to talk about. We also ask you, please, if you haven't checked out, if you're watching on a replay, the last couple of shows that we've done on Stevie Ray Vaughan and also Whitesnake. We had some great shows there, folks. If you want to go and watch them, share those. Share this link. We really appreciate it. We'll do anything that we can to share your stuff. I invite you, please, if you haven't already done this too, to go and check out this guy. He's been posting on his Instagram the last couple of weeks as well. So please go and show some support to Brad.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Andrew. I appreciate it.
No problem, bro. No problem. Rock Professor, we've got a quorum here. We've got 13 people watching, so you know what that means.
Means we can shout them out. Yes.
And then Brad's got a shout out after you've done that shout out. What do you reckon? And then we'll start the show. What do you reckon?
Let's get into it.
Yeah. Sounds good. Yeah.
Cool.
So good morning to Derek Clapton. Morning, Derek. Ellen. Morning, Ellen. Holly. Got the Holly. Got the mug. The mug of got the coffee in the mug. Gret Zeppelin. Good morning. Jonas Halber. Good morning, Jonas. Hope you're well. Ellen, Holly. Some bloke called Brad Cook. Greg Roberts June. Morning, Greg. Bob Dobalina. Morning, Bob. G.
Hey, Bob.
Bushnoff. Morning, G. How you doing?
Hey, G.
Nice to see you. I think there's all the people who've made a comment. I think did Justin? Oh, Jim as well. Just under 50. Morning, Jim. Hope you're well.
Hey, Jimmy.
That's cool. hopefully that's everybody. If anybody else, who put your name in the chat, and I will endeavour to shape that as we go along. But
Yeah.
So morning all. Good to see you all. I hope
Morning
you all had a good week, and I hope we're all
Yeah.
ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, why not?
Brad, what's
Brad.
been happening in Aussie? You had some
Ozworld.
news that you want to pass on?
Yeah, I had a bit of sad news actually. The band, the Screaming Jets here in Australia, is a pretty big, iconic band here in Australia. Sort of, cut their teeth with the Angels, and they're considered like a band here in Australia, very similar to the likes of, AC/DC, the Angels, Baby Animals, all that sort of, Cold Chisel. They've got that same sort of reputation here in Australia. The bass player Paul Wasson, I'm not sure if I pronounced his surname properly, Wasson, has passed away at the age of 56, which is very sad. He's been, I guess, an iconic, an institutional bass player for that band from the word go. So a very sad loss, and we want to pass on our regards to the Jets boys, Screaming Jets, Dave Gleason and the boys, Jimmy Hawking and all those fellas. And, look, I'm not sure what happened, and I'm not sure, what's going to happen with the Screaming Jets from this point forward. But all the best to you, gentlemen, and Paul's family as well. All the best to them, and through this pretty hard time. Our condolences go out to you guys.
Awesome. Thank you, bro. Thank you for doing that. And, it's a legacy. It's a band that obviously we have heard of here in New Zealand as well. They've toured here a few times as well. So I have to back up what Brad has said. Brad, on a more lighter, cheerful note, can you please do some channel eye candy clickbait for us and model the shirt for the band that we're doing today, please?
Yes, no problem. There we go.
Thank you.
Another one. I've got three or four of these DZ Top t-shirts. So yeah. I had to get this one up.
Dear.
I dusted this one off the main show. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for the clickbait. Thank you for the promoting.
Yeah.
Well,
Yes.
it comes a close second to the 5150 show that I've got. From the one that Simon gave me. I've still got that one. I wear that occasionally too. So.
Nice shirt. Nice shirt.
Yeah.
Nice. I'll definitely be taking mine to Italy in a couple of weeks. That's yeah. And morning, John's D351. Morning, John. Hope you're well. Good to see you, man.
Yeah.
So here's the real reply. This is what you really want when you're showing off a t-shirt. Whistle clickbait. That's the real comment we want. Thank you, Ollie. Rock and roll.
At least we can try our best on this channel to be the clickbait, the actual clickbait. So we'll try our best.
Awesome. Look, guys, we've been very fortunate on this channel, folks. If you haven't already been made aware of it, we've ranked a few of the ZZ Top albums, and we certainly look forward to talking and ranking this one that the Rock Professor has picked. Rock Professor, as usual, do you want to give us a bit of a background on this album? Then we'll quickly share our experiences with this album, and then we'll get into the tracks.
Yeah. Could I just say, Gret Zeppelin just saw a video of an Australian man setting the record for the longest underwater car drive. Niche, if ever I heard of it.
Only in Australia. It's funny because I saw a couple of weeks ago. I saw Caleb from another YouTube channel post something about a great white shark here in Australia circling a boat, and the comments from the Aussies. Only in Australia you're going to hear these comments. I won't repeat them here. And I just messaged back saying, only in Australia, because only in Australia are you going to hear comments like that, Oh, geez, the way they're talking, It's like, Anyway. Only in Australia.
Only in Australia. I like niche things like that. It's fantastic. Great stuff. Great. Just really good.
Cheers, Greg.
Yeah, no worries, Greg. What you have to do, Greg, is turn it off and turn it back on again. Welcome to Simon's IT support.
Sorry Simon's IT.
Simon's IT support desk. Turn it off and turn it back on again. Oh
Yeah.
dear. So anyway,
right.
look, here we are. This is what we discussed this week. ZZ Top Fandango. I've got a vinyl
Yes.
copy of it somewhere. I could bloody find it. But yes, there we are. It's one of the few albums I've got on vinyl and on CD. So I don't have that many albums on vinyl and CD, but I have got this one. This is I think it's the first ZZ Top album I bought. Was this one? I can't remember why I bought it. I just like the sound of it. I think I like the sound of it as a wild and raucous thing. So I think I bought it when I was a student in London.
No.
Back in the early 80s, man. Jeez, it's a long time ago. Went to IT University 41 years ago. That's quite scary, isn't it? Quite scary.
Oh wow.
So it's so ZZ Top, their first album in '75, which was their first album for 2 years after Tres Hombres, their breakout album. I would suggest that had brought them some big success, but they still took a couple of years, which is quite unusual back in the '70s to take 2 years to produce your next album. Normally it'd be the same year, if not, or certainly the next year. But I think touring and things like that taken up their time, and they decided that they kind of almost thought about doing a live album, because I think if you think about back in the mid '70s, that live album was like de rigueur then, wasn't it? You know, I mean, if you think about '75, Live and Dangerous, Peter Frampton Comes Alive, to name but two, you know, and I think, you know, you get 3 or 4 albums into a career and people were doing live albums a lot. So I think the initial idea was to do a live album, but I think clearly they didn't want to put stuff they'd already recorded out on the live album. So I think they had as we'll see. So they had enough for a side. Well, just about. Interesting, isn't it, how short this album is? But they had enough for a side, and they decided that to make the unusual move of having the second side as the studio side. So it went back into the studio and recorded half a dozen tracks for side 2. And clearly off the back of it, they had a hit single as well. Tush was the hit single off this album. Their first foray into top 40 songs. Yeah, what a song. We'll get to that. I've been playing it in bands for 30 years. So the staple of cover band land.
Yeah.
Yes. So the first side was recorded live at the Warehouse in New Orleans on April 12th, '74. Apparently captured as it came down, hot, spontaneous, and presented to you honestly without the assistance of studio gimmicks. One feels the need, if you need to say it. Well, I think in contrast to some other album, like, was it Live and Dangerous, is reputed to have been almost completely re-recorded. Not quite so live, not quite so dangerous. In a smaller, you need a video of the prof playing Tush. I'll see what I can do, John.
Yeah.
Holly wanted to know where I attended. I went to university in London. Holly, I went to what is now London Metropolitan University. Or North London Poly, as it was then. So anyway, so there's not massive amounts of information about the intricacies of it that I've discovered this week. So that's my intro, short and sweet. I like the album, really. It's short and sweet, to the point.
Beautiful.
So I don't know, where did you guys hear it? Where did you first come across it? Brad, we could go next.
Mine was just a deep dive. Obviously, I got into ZZ Top and the Crossing buying all the albums as I went. Obviously, I got into ZZ Top later than, this album actually came out. So I went backwards and started buying like Afterburner, and then went backwards from there and started buying. My very first ZZ Top album was a greatest hits one, which had Tush on it and LaGrange and all their biggest sort of songs. And then I went back and this one was just a progressional thing. I just bought it because it was the next one I could get my hands on, really. And there's some real gems on this album for sure, like especially the studio cuts. I was really surprised at, some of the ones that I hadn't heard before. I was like, wow, this is great. But this has actually got some of my favorite ZZ Top stuff on it. I love it. I love this record. I became a ZZ Top addict, from when I bought the first album, ZZ Top's first album, which we've done on the channel earlier in the piece. And from that point, that after Afterburner, I bought Eliminator and then ZZ Top's first album, and that changed everything for me, listening to that. And then progressionally bought this album, and I vaguely remember the first time I listened to it, I was like live in studio. I couldn't work out what was going on. Obviously, it took me a bit of research and finding out later that, the same, exactly what you said, Simon, that they had enough for half an album sort of thing. So they weren't sure whether to do a live album or not. So it became a bit of a side A live, side B studio. And I quite like it. But it's a good idea. It's not a bad idea. Andrew.
Well, Andrew.
Yeah, look, I've mentioned this to you guys before a few times about albums that I listened to when I was a young guy. This was my first foray into what I thought was electric blues, Brad. When you're listening to the Stones and the Beatles, clearly classic rock. Back then it wasn't called classic rock, but it was rock and roll music. That was rock music. And then you had the stuff that you were listening to on the radio, pop and all that. And listening to this was like, wow. This was my interpretation of blues for a while, and then you realise, actually, well, this is just a variety of blues. But phenomenal album, like you, Brad. It was like a contrast into everything that I was listening to when I was a young guy at high school, diving like you into the dark depths of ZZ Top. One thing before I pass it over to the rock professor, though, too, and I've mentioned this before, really sophisticated sound when you're a young guy. Huge influence on your consciousness, on your psyche, because you didn't quite pick up on the humour, Simon, in the lyrics back then. Wasn't until a little bit later on where you picked up on it, and that's kind of why you like the band as well, because they do have that humorous side about them. And they like to display that. But you knew there was something edgy about this band, very edgy. And I like that. Dangerous, maybe, even, they look dangerous, And you got to remember, too, 1981, 1975, it was only 6 or 7 years, so it wasn't like a big, like the rock professor said, like this 42-year gap. It was just a 5-6 year gap. And, these guys wearing hats and hairy and playing Les Pauls, Brad. They weren't playing super strats, and they were singing like this, Brad. Yeah. Very dangerous. And that's always going to be appealing, isn't it?
Yes, 100%. Look, I think everybody loves ZZ Top for their humorous side, but they take themselves seriously, but not too seriously. I think that's the wonderful thing about ZZ Top. They take themselves seriously as a band. Billy Gibbons takes the art side of it very seriously. The art of producing, the art of music, the art of being a songwriter and performer. Definitely. They take, and as a band, as a trio, they were very, I guess, in a trio situation, you can become very close and very tight very easily. But it takes good musicianship to become tight. This just doesn't and chemistry.
There's a great
there's
comment there from G. Buchoff, bro. I remember we did a couple of shows and Billy calls his pinch harmonics. He's got a special little name for his pinch harmonics, bro, hasn't he? Do you want to remind people what he calls it?
The squank.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. No, the squanking, the pinch harmonics he does, he's got a unique style and a unique way of doing it. And a lot of people obviously do pinch harmonics, but he does it in quite an expressive way, which is fantastic. I love one of their biggest songs, Lagrange. It's a perfect example of what his, squanking ability is.
This is the most serious thing that John ZD351 has ever said on the channel.
Ever.
Ever.
Ever. Yes, John, correct.
That is. Yeah. 100%, John. 100%.
We've got to get John on for a show.
Yeah, John,
Yes.
you need to come on, mate, and lead us through some piece of an album that's your favourite for sure. And the question I have that goes on from G. Bushnoffer's question, which is, and he plays the lightest strings possible. When did he move to the light strings? Do you know when he moved? We all know the famous story of B.B. King saying to him, "Why do you want to work so hard?" But do we know when that was?
70s. Definitely in the 70s.
Yeah, so clearly after he started, I just wondered if it was, is he playing light strings on this, for instance, or is that a bit later? I don't know. Doesn't matter, but
I'm not sure, to be honest with you, technically, about. I've seen things in the past that contradict that as well, but I think it definitely was through that 70s period that he started to use light gauge strings. There was something that I read somewhere, and I'm trying to remember where, but he didn't use railway track strings like Stevie Ray Vaughan ever. I don't think he ever did that.
No.
He just went from.
Well, he was always on tens. You mean 10s to 8s or something?
I think so, but I think basically he wasn't like on, 13 to 56s or whatever.
No.
He wasn't at that with the string gauges. Yeah, maybe someone in the chat might know that. Yeah, someone can put it in the comments after the show, or whatever, or even if someone can Google it and find it. That's a really good question, because I remember reading it a long time ago, but I can't remember the answer.
No, it's it just struck me that clearly we all know that that's the story. But
I think it was B.B. King who mentioned it to him, from remember, because B.B.
that's right.
like strings, and something about he used to use like some gnarly sort of wire on his guitars, and B.B. King used to go, or said to him, "Why are you working so hard?" And that's when he went for the thinner strings.
So it's interesting because he's saying that his guitar tech. So I think this is what I think the confusion is, because he's using 8s now. But I think he was using 9s on a Les Paul for a long, long time, and everyone else was using 11s. But because he's famously known for talking about using 8s, because we've all done it. Remember, we all talked about it after that interview came out, and we put 8s on. I put 8s on my guitar, and I went and cut them off after 30 seconds, because it just felt like noodles.
Yeah. I think the lighter gauge strings. When I had my health scare, I had to drop a gauge string, and I've actually stuck with it now, because even though my playing has become a little bit more competent and a little bit easier to manage, I could probably go back to the gauge string I was on, is what I'm getting at. But I actually like it. I don't mind playing 9s. I think it's if I'm tuning down, maybe 10s would be okay, but a 9-gauge string feels pretty good to me now. I can got a lot
Yeah.
more control of my vibratos, and
Yeah.
you know, so when I find I'm doing bends and vibratos, I've got way more control. So you know, it's not a bad thing, and I definitely don't think my tone has suffered in any way, shape, or form. If anything,
Look, I agree. And you look at Billy, you know, he's an old man, you know, seriously, you know, guys. So, you know, the effort in doing what Brad's just described, you know, having to do those vibratos and that squanking's probably doesn't mean, you know, that he has to get in behind there and lean into it. Stevie Ray Vaughan did the famous thing too, didn't he? Famously, we spoke about that a couple of weeks ago. We went from 13s when he was on drugs. And then when he was off the booze, off drugs, he changed down, didn't he? Changed his gauge to lighter gauge strings because he could finally feel them. So, yeah.
And I mean, look, you know, you talk about a lot of the greats, you know, don't have that. I mean, Stevie Ray had inhumane size hands. They were massive. They weren't like your standard size hand. They were like double the size. So 13s to him were probably okay. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get John. I get your point, John. But they just, yeah, maybe a minute. Maybe give me a break, mate. Maybe I played it for a minute.
Yeah. Look, to be honest with you, I think string gauge is something that people focus a little bit too much on. I think you know, if you want to play a certain style, sure, you've got to consider if you're dropping your low E string down to B, you might need to put a thicker gauge on because it's going to be too flappy. But if you're using like a standard or semitone down tuning, I don't think it's string gauge is really up to the player. I think you know what feels right and doesn't give you you know problems with your wrist and hand tendons, that sort of stuff. And that's something that I find players as they get older, they try to lose the ego and they just want to play properly. And they go, well, 11 gauge strings and 12 gauge strings on a Les Paul now feel too heavy for my hands, which I was using 11s before. And I'm down to 9s and I'm quite comfortable on that. And like I said, guys, I don't think my tone has suffered in any way, shape, or form. So
No.
I'll argue with people, not argue, sorry, I'll debate it to the point where I think lighter gauge strings actually sometimes sound better. I'll say. I mean, Jimmy Page used to use light gauge strings.
Well, I mean, I think in the 60s. In the 60s, that's what they came with. You know, pretty light gauge strings. They weren't sort of heavy gauge strings. And it's not.
Yeah.
You know, I think it's only the sort of, you know, the different thickness strings, the different gauges of strings is a later invention and not something that particularly people were doing back in the 60s. You got, I think, 9s kind of thing.
I think from what I understand too, Billy Gibbons, as time progressed, he had obviously he had guitar techs and that, but the good thing about guys that use very thick gauge strings would from my recollection and knowing what gear they use, would normally use something like a Fender Twin or something that's very trebly, and they were using thicker gauge strings to punch a little bit more bottom end to get a more punchy tone out of their guitar. And with gear, if you go a slightly higher gain amp or something that's got a little bit more punch to it, you don't need to worry about going thick gauge strings because you actually lose clarity and lose a little bit of. I have just noticed with lighter gauge strings that this amp, which I've had modified by Tone Revival Engineering, sounds better with slightly lighter gauge strings.
And of course, in a band scenario, you don't want too much bass, do you? You want that mids and the highs so you can cut through over the top of the bass.
You've got a frequency. People don't understand this.
Bands,
like you've got a graphic. So the guitar frequency sits here, the bass sits down here, and the drums are here and here. If you got keyboards there, here as well. You know what I mean? You want your sound to be there somewhere situated in a mix. But I'm a big advocate for play what feels comfortable. If you're comfortable and it's not giving you problems with your hands, then stick with it. What's not broken, don't fix it. But if you're finding you're getting problems with your left hand, if you're a right-handed person and you're playing fretting with your left hand, that's why Billy Gibbons and BB King and all those guys went lighter gauge string, because they're playing all the time. They didn't have to play hard. They didn't have to play as hard to get the same thing, and they got used to it. But someone like Stevie Ray Vaughan would probably break 9 gauge strings every 2 minutes because he played very heavy with his right hand. So,
Yeah.
Anyway,
John ZD351 is plotting a bit of heresy in the chat. Change your gauge and then change your sound. Turn the knobs on your gear. What's that all about, John? Explain. What?
Hey, listen,
you turn everything up to 10, surely, and then that's it.
There's a lot of truth behind that. You know what I mean? You don't necessarily need
Absolutely.
to focus too much on the string gauge to get a good tone, is what I'm saying.
No,
Anyway.
that's completely right, and he is right, of course. Yeah. Turn the knobs on your guitar, which is what all those old, Page and all those people spend their lives riding the knobs, don't they? Volumes and tones and all sorts of things, flicking the switch all the time, and yeah, absolutely.
Hey, Ryan.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's why I think Billy just went and did what BB King told him, because BB King was BB King. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yes.
Who's going to argue with BB King? No one.
No, quite right too. We should say good morning to Johnny Heartbreaker and to Ryan Hall. Morning, guys. Hope you're good. Good to see you. Thanks for joining. Anyway, sorry about that. Spotted as usual. Diverting off to some backwater of discussion. So let's start. Let's begin. So track one, side one, which is the live side, as we've said. The opener is a song called Thunderbird, which apparently, despite having ZZ Top writing credits, was originally written and performed by the Nightcaps, maybe one or two other people as well, and back in the 50s. And the Nightcaps performed the song, distributed on their album Wine, 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 but never applied for copyright. And ZZ Top began performing the song as early as '74 and has conceded their version is lyrically and musically identical to the Nightcaps song. The Nightcaps sued ZZ Top for copyright infringement, but their claims were dismissed as ZZ Top had registered copyright in '75. So there's a lesson for us all in copyright your songs, so that so you don't lose it, because they could have earned £1 or £2 off of that. But and it starts off with tremendous kind of crowd noises and the great introduction of the band. Are you ready for ZZ Top? Kind of thing, and off they go. And basically, it's a brisk, energetic 12-bar blues rocker, isn't it? I mean, it's a great opener, all about the merits of Thunderbird cars and Thunderbird wine, and getting high in the valley below, which is I wonder what that's about. Anyway, it's got a trademark Billy Gibbons solo at about 2:11, and great drumming as well. I mean, they hold down a groove, don't they, ZZ Top? They hold down the groove, and I mean, I've seen film of them from '75. They were quite energetic. Come bouncing on, and Gibbons would run up and down the stage quite a lot. I can just even see him doing this on this track, running up and down, stirring up the crowd, and being held down by the rhythm section. Second solo, double stops abound, and all of that, and some skronking. A great opening track, does exactly what a great opening track should do. Energetic, plenty of verve, plenty of bit of tempo to it. 9 out of 10 from me, never a skip. Brad.
Beautiful. Well, for me, Thunderbird, it's naturally one of those songs that's got a real high energy sort of feel to it. And ZZ Top are a blues rock engine. They're cooking here. It's a massive rock opener, and it really grabs your attention. You can really instantly determine it's ZZ Top from that gritty guitar tone from Billy Gibbons, and his growl sort of vocal that he comes in with. Solid bass and from Dusty, and drumming from Frank Beard is just incredible. The band, they execute like this driving thump beat. It's like they're really bringing that song home. But if you really listen to it, it sounds like there's a stampede of people coming all in time with each other. Like their feet are in time with each other. It sounds incredible. It's the way they've done it. It's because the band has just got that natural thump and grit about their sound. It sounds unbelievable. Like you said, Simon, it plays homage to like that classic Fourth Thunderbird and the alcohol that you mentioned as well. It's definitely like a very infectious groove. Billy Gibbons, wow, he really gives some really memorable bluesy guitar solos here. You can really hear how well Billy and Dusty sing together on this track. That's a really big part of the ZZ Top sound. We always go towards Billy Gibbons' guitar tone, but their vocal singing together when they're singing in unison sounds phenomenal. And they do harmonize at times together, and that throughout their long career together, their vocals just got better and better together. The band are on fire. It's a smoking way to open a live blues rock show, in my opinion, and a great way to open the album. I initially gave this a 9, but I'm giving it a 10 because every time I put it on, it blew me away even more. I was like, these guys, imagine being standing in the front row watching this. That's what I was kept thinking. I was like, this is unbelievable. So 10 out of 10 first track, guys. Andrew.
So you get that, folks, for 1 minute on this track. You get, it's fantastic, isn't it? You get this crowd just going, clapping and all that for 1 whole minute, and the song's only 2 minutes long. It always fascinated me that, and I think they're very clever. Certainly the management, the production, and the band members, Brad and Simon, when it came to producing this album, doing a live album, a live side and a studio side, and we'll probably talk about that juxtaposition in tones when we flick over to side 2. But you can see clearly what they're trying to do. I think they've done this deliberately. They wanted people to appreciate that this band was something else live, was something, that you had to go and hear or go and listen to. I'm glad that the Rock Professor mentioned too that they didn't hide anything. They didn't go into the studio, Simon and Brad, and redo this. So, they were confident in their musicianship, as Brad mentioned earlier. And they never got tight and never became this band without that musicianship behind them. So, the stand and deliver attitude that these guys had, it's clearly evident for me on this opening track. It's fantastic. The solo's awesome. It's got that crunchy, choppy tone that Brad was talking about, like a stampede of people coming through, that choppiness. It's very inherent in the band, and they continue that theme on into this album. I love it. If you were sitting down in the UK in 1975, Simon, listening to this album for the first time, you'd be blown away, wouldn't you? On this track, you'd be thinking, holy cow, no YouTube, Brad. You're just using your ears. And and I was a 14-year-old boy listening to this, and blew me away too. Still blows me away. I'm with the Rock Professor though. I'm giving this a 9 out of 10, and I'm just going to follow on what Brad did last week. Because this is such a great album. I'm just mindful about how I'm going to give, if I do give any 10. If I do give any Brad scores, they're going to be well deserved. But 9 out of 10, folks. Thank you for letting me mention that and talk about the clapping, bros.
Yeah. Fantastic. So good. Okay, so off to a great start as you'd expect. The second track is a cover of Jailhouse Rock, and sorry. The thing that struck me about, and I can remember right now, it strikes me the same way as it struck me the first time I heard it. If you want to know what a 59 Les Paul sounds like, stick on the first 15 seconds of that. I mean, that is the biggest, heaviest sound I had ever. It's like, there's nothing heavier than that. I don't think I've ever heard anything heavier than that before or since. More metal and stuff like that. But that is a sound. That is the sound of thunder cracking across the sky. That is unbelievable, and I couldn't believe it. And I can remember sort of like going, and still now, when you put it on, you go, wow, listen to that. That is a sound, just thrills me beyond thrill. Just those first two chords, when he just goes, and he gets the kind of feedback going, and you think, yeah, if you want to know what the sound of a 59 Les Paul through, I don't know if it's probably a Marshall or something, if you want to know what it sounds like, that's what it sounds like. With no pedals, no nonsense in between, just that. It sounds incredible to me. That's sort of, fantastic. Clearly it's a, great, quick rock version of it. Back in the 70s, lots of bands did lots of cover versions of 50 songs, didn't they? How many times have you seen? Well, no, you wouldn't have seen it because you're all too young. But in the 70s, people encoring with Johnny B. Good or stuff like stuff from the 50s. Rock and roll wasn't very far away, 20 years away. So I can see why they would have done it. As they keep it short, they keep it sweet. It's got great vocals and great slide solo. I don't know how Mr. Gibbons, plays. I presume it's standard tuning, but maybe not. But playing a slide on it. The bass, the guitar are as tight as you would imagine they are. I just hold it down. It's just to me, it's a great version. It's a 10 out of 10 for me for those first two chords. Wherever else, just that beginning, because for me, it's such a thrilling thing. Whatever. Is it cars, wine, and legs? Yes. So 10 out of 10 from me for those first two chords. I still find them as thrilling as I did when I first heard it. So, Brad.
Awesome. Oh, look, this live rendition of Elvis Presley's Jailhouse Rock, captures the band's live sort of prowess, I think. ZZ Top, they infused their own style into this rock and roll classic. Dusty's vocal on this is great. You can really hear his admiration for Elvis, because I know he's a Elvis buff. If anyone's seen a little old band from Texas, he had a shrine for Elvis Presley. He bought anything he could get his hands on that had to do with Elvis. And that might be why they actually played this song too. It might have been Dusty, like, I want to do this song. So they went ahead and did it. And what a fantastic version of it. Billy Gibbons' guitar work, he really takes center stage on this one on the guitar. That slide solo is fantastic. That guitar tone, like that you mentioned, Simon, at the very start, I hear that all the way through the song. But that's very, 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 very Billy Gibbons, that guitar tone. Whenever I hear that tone, you just think of Billy Gibbons. And I just did a bit of research while you were chatting there, Simon. I was listening to everything you said, but I found a thing that said Billy Gibbons went to light gauge strings when he was about 22 years of age, because B.B. King picked up his guitar and played it. So he's about 22 years of age. So all these songs are done on a lighter gauge string. So there you go. Yeah. To get that tone on a lighter gauge string, that undoes a lot of myth, doesn't it? It's this live setting of ZZ Top, the performance, it really captures that raw, unfiltered energy, and they really push that into the track as well. It's short and sweet. It could have went longer, really, but I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I think it's a fantastic performance, and it really highlights what the band were doing at that particular time in their career. They were really sounding amazing. You listen to how tight that band are, the three of them. I mean, their energy's up. The song actually seems too fast, but it doesn't. They don't come undone. It's amazing. Andrew.
Thank you, bros. Hi, Moto Mining. Thanks for joining us. A new name in the chat. Please hit that subscribe button while you're here, and we'll subscribe back to you, please. Thanks for joining us. Couple of things on this track, guys. First of all, the Rock Professor has surprised me with giving this a 10 out of 10 because, you know, I don't want to think that you guys, you know, in my mind all the time when I'm ranking tracks, even though that you might be. You might be. You might be. But, you know, sometimes you might be haunting my thoughts, Brad. Good luck to you there. Anyway, so seriously, I didn't think that the Rock Professor would rank this high because it was a cover. But I can understand why he's given it a 10 out of 10 because of those opening chords. And well done. Thank you for that, Simon, Rock Professor. And I'm glad that Brad mentioned this love affair that they have with Elvis Presley because we spoke about that documentary many times, bro, you know, and it's very clear, you know, that these guys have a homage to Elvis Presley. After all, he's the king of rock and roll. He broke the barrier, didn't he? He made this music that we listen to a thing. So, you know, that deserves to be respected and celebrated. But these Americans, though, they've got this real love affair with Elvis because, Brad, when I was listening to this album in 81, 82, a couple of years after this was released, Girls, Girls, Girls by Motley Crue comes out, which is a huge album, and they do a version of Jailhouse Rock, you know. So you know, Yanks love this. They love paying that respect back to the king of rock and roll. I love that too. Obviously, the Rock Professor and Brad have mentioned how the tone dovetails into the previous song. Clearly, it's the same set, isn't it? So, you know, sonically, it's the same. I've given this exactly what Brad has given it. I've given it a 9 out of 10. Great version of the song. Go and check out Motley Crue's version too, guys, if you haven't. And obviously the King's version. Everyone knows the King's version. Rock Professor.
No, I think that's fair. As I say, you're quite right. I wouldn't, you know, without, you know, as I say, that guitar thing at the beginning just is worth 10 out of 10. But that's, you know, that's just a bit of a side from me, I think. But more so than, you know, it's a great version. But you're right, it's a cover version. I mean, you know, it's a kind of, you know, if you're going to judge it like that, then it's kind of more like a sort of 8 out of 10 kind of thing. But, you know, for those guitar chords at the beginning and that sound and that what it should be, you know, it gets a 10 from me. Something of a conceit, but whatever, it's fine. So track 3 is a medley. I don't think we'll talk about it all in one go. I don't think we need to break it down. I think it's, you know, that it's basically a blues medley, isn't it? It's a, you know, sort of with a ZZ Top twist to it, but you know, there's a lot of Little Walters Mellow Down Easy, and there's a callback to John Lee Hooker's Boogie Chillin' in it as well, which clearly it's a bit like the LaGrange riff as well. So there's a nod to that. But it's divided into several parts, and you know. So, and the great thing is they go straight from Jailhouse Rock into it, don't they? It's that just straight into it. It's like sound continues, and I think that maintaining of the momentum is a something that any band could learn from. You know, I mean, you know, that thing where you play the first 4 songs without stopping or whatever. You know, I mean, I think. Famous Bruce Springsteen is famous for doing that. You come on, you play the first 4 songs, and you just merge the first 4 songs into, you know, you don't stop. You know, there's sound all the way through, and you know, you just count them in as they come, and which I think is a fantastic way if you're playing live to maintain the momentum. Certainly, at the beginning, you can do that, which is brilliant. So, again, they are fantastically tight, aren't they? You know, they're fantastically tight about what they do together. The bass and the drums fit together, you know, intertwined brilliantly. Billy Gibbons is, you know, playing fantastically over the top. He's got, you know, gives a bit of chance for Billy to kind of stretch out a bit. There's all that call and response stuff, the vocals call and response. And let me tell you, anybody can sing Mellow Down Easy that fast deserves a prize in my books. It's really difficult if you try to sing along. Sometimes try and sing along. You know, that got to Mellow Down Easy bit is it's really difficult to do. But you know, they take that, just the drums and the singing, and as you said, Brandon and Andrew, one or two, that harmony singing, the both of them singing together as well, kind of thing. Kind of gruff harmonies that really works really well. And they, you know, then sort of build up, kind of thing. And there's that great thing about, you know, in the third bit about, you know, about the mother and father at home. Their son phones them from New Orleans, which is classic tongue-in-cheek sort of ZZ Top humor, isn't it? You know, let that boy boogie woogie. We cannot let him stay out all night long. Oh dear, it's fantastic. It's 9 out of 10 for me. Never escape. It's a fantastic. Clearly live, you know, with all the participation time and the chant, you know, back and forth, the vocals. Clearly something you do live, not particularly in the studio, but a great rest of the side. Loads of energy, loads of guitar playing, really tight. Yes, 9 out of 10 from me, and never and ever a skip. Brad.
The backdoor melody. That's
named after you. Yes, I'd forgotten that. Yes.
The backdoor melody. I'll just say it
Brad
like
Cook melody.
Nothing else. This is this is a unique sort of medley, and it really highlights the ability of Frank Beard on drums, in my opinion. It really highlights him. It's a combination of several songs, as we know, woven together. It's got, like you said, Simon, it's got, Backdoor Love Affair, Mellow Down Easy, that Willie Dixon song, Backdoor Love Affair again, and Long Distance Boogie from John Lee Hooker, that you got to let that boy boogie woogie, you know. That's fantastic. Look, I'll be honest with you, the very first time I bought this album, I was like, what the hell's going on here? I wanted to hear Backdoor Love Affair, you know, I wanted to hear what I knew from ZZ Top. But then I thought to myself, this thing, they're playing so fast and they're so tight, and the vocal ability of this band is incredible. Let's like you said, Simon, to sing that, the way they're singing that, it's so fast, yeah. I don't know. To me,
yeah,
they do it so well, though. Each section of the medley features its own distinctive groove, and it's a testament to ZZ Top's ability to captivate the live audience. They've really captured them. The energy's captured there. The vocals are energetic. There's really raunchy guitar parts without doubling up on what you have said, Simon. Initially, as a boy, when I was listening to this, I sometimes skip this. I'm going to be honest here. But I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. And it's definitely not a skip now. There's a lot going on here. I appreciate it a lot more now than I did when I first put it on. But again, you know, when I first got into ZZ Top, I wanted to hear Tush and I wanted to hear LaGrange. And obviously I started to appreciate more of the blues influence. And they really amalgamated their own sound with some covers and their own song in here in a wonderful way. So 8 out of 10 for me. Andrew.
Yeah, look, Brad, you know, I'm glad that you and I are going to admit this. You know, when we were boys, we were doing boy things, and then we became men, and then we started doing men things. You know,
kept on doing
when you're a boy, and when you're a boy, you're probably skipping this because you want to hear the tracks. I dig what Brad's saying, folks, because I probably did that too. But over the years, certainly the last 15 years, 10 years of becoming a ZZ Top fan, you know, you appreciate this for what it is. It's certainly a manifesto for them, Rock Professor, you know, of what they were trying to achieve and present to their fans and to win fans. I think they've done this. Brad, you mentioned something really, really interesting too in your discussion there about how it's like super fast. It's like a rave. It's almost like a rave, and you can understand why it would be super fast because they're playing this live, Simon. You know, so we all know, you know, the story and the history about how rock and roll bands get caught up, and when they go back and listen, they go, "Shit, we're playing that really fast." You know, it's like what
Welcome to
what's
live.
going,
Yes.
yeah. What's going on? And that might be down to Brad. I know it's 74, 75, and they had pretty good gear back then, but maybe they didn't probably have good monitors where they could hear themselves too, you know. So, but that doesn't matter. But you know, it's not a fault of the album. Look. If people skip this because they wanted to get to other tracks on this album, I can buy that. I can understand why they would. I'd recommend that people don't, because this paints that whole picture of what this band's trying to do, and then in the context of what this album is, this album's, you know, an epic album. I've given this a 9 out of 10 too. It used to be a skip, Brad, when we were boys, but now we're men. It's never a skip. Rock Professor.
I should hope not. Moto Mining was talking about Billy Gibbons' Chiquita guitar, travel guitar. Hang on, so it's a little picture of the Chiquita guitar just found.
Yeah.
So you get an idea about what he played on that. So it's always nice to see a picture, isn't it, of something that. So Moto Mining, there you go. There's it. Yeah, it's very
So
cool.
that's the side one, guys. Side
Yeah,
one.
side one. Whistle through in it's a whole 16 minutes. Welcome to 1975 when you could do a 16-minute side.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, kids. You know, none of your
Okay.
70-minute CDs, and we're all asleep by track 12. Still going.
So that's the album cover, folks. Always love the album cover. I think that just speaks volumes, doesn't it, of the tightness and the closeness that Brad mentioned.
Yeah.
And, you know, the fact that they were still, as the Rock Professor said too, you know, dominating the stage individually, taking over the stage in different spaces and coming back together. They were certainly doing that. It's become part of what they do now, but back then it would have been unique, the way that they separated and came back, Brad and Simon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, on
Would cover
stage.
them all, wouldn't it? A blanket would cover them all, wouldn't it? That's my favourite thing is, you know, great bands can all, you know, you can get them all in a photograph, you know, single photograph, no problems at all. And that's them absolutely standing toe to toe, you know. But you see Dusty Hill looking at Frank Beard, you know, keeping it where they go and stuff. It's that's what you should be doing in a band, listening, looking, and right next to each other so you can hear what each other are doing. You know,
Love the nudie suits as well.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
That's the bum cover.
Yeah.
You old bums rush the show. Yep.
That's from 75, folks. It's a concert promotion for the band in 75. Again with their nudies.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think Frank's in uniform? I don't think Frank's in uniform, is he?
Another
Get the memo.
tour poster with REO Speedwagon. So, you know, hot band in the mid-70s as well.
Mm-hmm.
There's one of the singles from Japan. We'll be talking about these songs soon, folks.
Soon.
There's one for you, Brad.
Beautiful. Love the Explorer.
Yeah.
Love the Explorer.
So that's apparently from 75.
I bet that's a real Explorer as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
Billy Gibbons.
Brad, Simon, here we go.
Yes, look at that.
And they had the was like I guess a choreographed move. They used to always do the same moves at the same point of the song, same thing. It continued on until sadly Dusty passed away. Really, they kept that going.
Those, yeah, those things are really cool, aren't they? Just where they do those little steps together, kind of thing, moving in one direction or something like that, when they in unison. That it's like sort of oddly, it's not a big gesture, is it? They're like small gestures, but that kind of unison stances and the little things that moving together and stuff, those steps, it's just brilliant. I love all that stuff.
Can I add that it's very manly? Like there's something quite, manly about the way that they did it. It wasn't like they were trying to be like I don't know, I don't know. They're doing it in a very manly way. It's not that they were trying to be impressing women for some reason. They just did it because it was a very man thing to do. I don't know what I'm trying to say there, but
I get it.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yes. I love the hats. I love the jacket. I love that jacket Billy Gibbons is wearing there. That's great. The brown leather jacket.
Got pockets to keep his stuff in.
Yeah, fantastic.
But, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I presumed that most of the, maybe not, but most of the set was kind of Pearly Gate. So he's playing first side. He's playing Pearly on it, but maybe not. Maybe he's playing the Explorer on something.
I think he liked to mix it up a bit live.
Yeah,
Even
certainly
back
live.
then, yeah.
I'm going to say that it's Pearly Gates on this album. I'll take a
There's
stab and say
definitely
99%.
There's definitely a Stratocaster on some of it too.
Yeah.
Oh, the old yes, you can tell us about the ZZ Top recording trick with that, Brad. We get the side too, because I think that's really interesting and worth reiterating. And how they recorded and stuff. But yeah, that's what it sounded like to me. It sounded to me like it's the Les Paul. But I mean, the Explorer's got humbucker, so it's quite Les Paulish. So I don't know. I'm not saying I could pick that out of a live lineup of two.
A good chance it was the Pearly, because he used to play it live as well. So
yeah, to take it out.
Yeah.
Apparently, it's still all original. Nothing's been changed.
100%. I mean,
Cool.
It's one of those things. I think his guitar Pearly became just as important to the band as the cars in the 80s. The Fords and the ZZ Top cars. So became like a character within itself. Good old Pearly. Yeah.
Back then. Back in the day.
Oh yeah. Anyway, so we're up to side two, gentlemen.
We are. We're now on to the smooth landing on side two, which is the studio side, and starts off with Nasty Dogs and Funky Kings with a great start-stop riff, classic ZZ Top start-stop riff, and it goes into a shuffle. Great swinging drums. Frank, nobody could play a shuffle like Frank Beard. I'll put that, but it's just, and that and the vocals great. The bass and the guitar playing the riff together, doing it so tight, so in unison, and Brad, you can talk about the way they recorded the things, because I think it's quite obvious on these things that what they did, isn't it? But you can, that's right, you can talk about that. It's fantastic. So great solo, pinched harmonics, classic Gilly Gibbons stuff, bluesy, moving all the time, and and basically that's to a fade out. It's only 2.5 minutes long, but oh yeah, well, I just like the fact that if your song's 2 minutes 30 long, then it's 2 minutes 30. It doesn't have to be 7 minutes long. Leave them wanting more. It's I never felt like it was too short or anything like that. 9 out of 10 from me. Never a skip. Great opening track. Fantastic.
Look,
go on, Brad. Tell us.
It's 9. Look, side two. This is for me the where the album really goes next level. There's some fantastic tracks on here. In fact, some of my favorite ZZ Top tracks of all time. So the first track on side 2 is Nasty Dogs and Funky Kings, as you said, Simon. And this track is a prime example of ZZ Top's blues rock mastery. It features that really catchy guitar riff, and the lyrics tell that story of a wild and rebellious sort of lifestyle. Billy Gibbons, his soulful vocals and expressive guitar playing is truly masterful. Dusty's locked into Frank's drumming they're like one piece, they're like one machine, and I can't describe that if you're not sure what I'm trying to explain there. Bass and drums normally play together in a band. They try to complement each other. They play off the kick and snare off each other quite a bit. But these two, there's just something about it that you can tell they've been doing a lot of live shows together. In the studio, from the very first album onwards, their rhythm section playing together was so tight. I love the rhythm guitar track that's under the solo, and the guitar solo is masterful. You know, he's a genius, Billy Gibbons, and I've said this before. This shows ZZ Top at their finest. You can on these recordings, like Simon was referring to, their recording technique, and they used to basically record Billy's 2 guitar tracks, one slightly out of dissonance with the other, so that it would get that slight dissonance and fuzziness and rawness about the tone, and the way they pan the guitars. They had it down pat by this point, and this is a fantastic song. It truly doesn't get enough recognition. I gave it 9.5 out of 10. It's never a skip. It nearly got a 10, but it's hard to give it a 10 when I give other things 10 that are better than it. So 9.5 out of 10, never a skip for me. Andrew.
Is the Brad? Sorry. So they record Pearly in one speaker and the Strat in the other speaker, but slightly out of phase. Is that right? That's what I hear on this.
It could have been, through their career, it could have been even Pearly Gates on both tracks, but they would slightly adjust the guitar tuning. It might have been an absolute B-stick, something that, you know, we can't really pick up on a tuner, just slightly off, and it gives that dissonance, fattens a tone up. You know, it makes it really sound like 2 separate guitars. And
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Andrew.
Yeah, Brad's right, folks, and we've mentioned this before on previous ZZ Top shows. If you go and check out the documentary that's out, what's the name of the documentary? The Best Little Band in Texas or something?
Little Old Band, Texas.
Yeah, and they talk about exactly what Brad's talking about when Billy discovered that, you know, tuning under or slightly over, probably below.
Yeah, I'd say
concept.
But Andrew, sorry to interrupt. I don't think it would have been enough get the tuner out and go, oh, it's this particular point. It would have just been an absolute little minuscule amount. It's not like you did. You know, even someone like Alan Garber wouldn't probably need to get the Peterson tuner out. It's not a deliberate thing. It was just a slight bit off, and it's if you play along with it, and you can't really tell which one's which guitar because it's slightly off to each other. And I have tried this since that documentary. Sorry to cut you off there, Andrew.
Yeah, no problem. And Billy talks about that being crucial to their sound, a little bit like Keith Richards, I suppose, going into open G tuning. You know, it gave them something that was distinctive. So I'm glad that we mentioned that, and we sort of get that on this track. Now, this is where this album becomes, in my opinion, bordering on a masterpiece, because you've got the live side on side 1, and if you'd had that on side 2, you would have thought, yeah, great live album. But the genius for this band is that they decide, okay, we're going to release some studio sonicisms, whatever you want to call it. Because it's a remarkable contrast, isn't it, when you listen to the tone of this versus the previous tracks. You know, it's remarkable, and I love it. Billy's playing on this, Brad, and Simon's fantastic in his vocals. This is classic Billy. This is classic Billy vocals as well. I love that. I too have given this a 9 out of 10. Exactly for the same reason that Brad has said to you folks, because there are some holy cows coming up, some holy molies.
Oh yeah.
Holy molies.
Oh yeah.
Never a skip though. Never a skip. Big smile on your face after listening to this side. Rock Professor.
No, completely. It's a great opener, isn't it? It got that classic
Hey, Tim.
ZZ Top thing. Morning, Tim. How you doing? Hope you're good. So the second track is Blue Jean Blues, which is a classic slow blues, slow smoking blues. I mean, to me, this is like the quintessential slow blues track, isn't it? If you want to know how to play slow blues guitar, this is like a template for how to do it. You know, the phrasing, the sound, the feel. I mean, you know, second to none. This is in my books. You know, I think this is a fantastic, thrilling, you know, track, and it's got such feel, such. And as I say, if you want to know about how to play a slow blues, you know, just play those little phrases, and then when you hold a note, you know, hold a note for like 10 seconds, you know, there's just, and the way you can use your vibrato, and the way that Gibbons does it, it's just, to me, this is a masterclass in how to do it. If you want to know how to do it, this is the way that it's what you do. I think, you know, fantastic, lots of space. The guitar sounds fantastic. Really good, really smooth. It's a great feel, great vocals as well. Only ZZ Top could write a classic slow blues about a pair of jeans.
Come on, man. You're reading on my nose.
I know. Oh, well, you know, yeah. Great minds think alike is the way I like to think of it, Brad.
Yeah, true.
And I noticed that in the solo at the end, there's suddenly a great lot of reverb on it, and there's not a lot of reverb on the first bit. They put some reverb on the second bit, just give it a bit of a contrasting thing to it, which is fantastic. Yes, as I say, it's a brilliant use of space and feel, and timing, and you know when to play, when not to play, and that kind of, you know, everyone talks about when you play a blues solo, it's got to be in sentences, doesn't it? You know, you play a bit, take a breath, play a bit, take a breath. Same with the guitar. And as I say, to me, this is a masterclass on how to do that. It's 100 out of 10. It's a Brad score as far as I'm concerned. You know, and if you skip it, and I'll be round your house wagging my finger at you. That goes for everybody in the world, whoever watches this. If you skip, I'll be round your. I will know. Brad, over to you. Get me out of this.
All right, Simon. I've given it a big skip. I'm jumping.
Right, I'm on my way. Look at. He's actually booted himself out of the stream. No, you haven't. No, you haven't.
I'm joking, of course. Listen, you've read all my notes, so it's going to be very much repeating a lot of what you said here.
Sorry,
but I said here, Blue Jeans Blue is a masterclass in blues electric guitar playing. ZZ Top, the way they've slowed things down for this, it's got that soulful Texas sort of blues thing happening. It's a ballad. Only ZZ Top, again, Simon, repeating what you said, I put here, it's in my notes. Only ZZ Top can get away with singing a song about blue jeans. No one else. Hey, no one else can do it. And that's why they're unique. If you listen to the guitar playing alone in this song, it's hypnotic. Billy's soulful singing is pleading how happy one man could be at the return of his blue jeans. Like, that is comical. It's gold. It's just something else. He's a genius, this guy. Lyrically, he comes up with some of the best lyrics in blues music that I've ever heard. It's unbelievable. I think his blues soloing in this, some of his best playing that he's ever done, is unbelievable. I think, I could be proven wrong here, but I think he's playing a Stratocaster on this song.
Is it a Strat? Is it? Oh, okay.
I think it could be Strat, this song, because it's got that sort of distinctive Strat thing going on. I could be wrong, guys. I could be wrong. This song showcases the band's ability to transition seamlessly from that high energy rock that they're doing, that rock blues, into like a soulful Texas blues. The outro solo to this is the highlight for me, with the guitar solos where the reverb kicks in. His soloing on this song in general is just, like you said, a masterclass. I'm going to give it 100 out of 10. It's never a skip. Like I said, it was at the start. I was joking. It's one of my favorite pop songs, and I love hearing them do this live. I love hearing them. There's versions of this they talk about. Go and listen to this song live. I won't spoil it for you, but Billy Gibbons talks about how, she was wearing his blue jeans and she looked good. That's all I'll say. Andrew.
Yeah, again, it's pretty hard to follow up some epic comments from the co-hosts, and obviously you guys here in the chat are really contributing to the show as well with your comments. G, Ryan, Tim, everybody, Alan, thank you, John, ZD351, Holly, Gretch Zeppelin, you guys are fantastic. Thanks for hanging out with us and sharing this great music with us, because that's what it's about. When you can share music together and talk about it and play it, that's what it's about. What was the comment that John made earlier, guys? Music's far too important to take seriously. And if you can do that with friends, it's great. Johnny Heartbreaker, you guys are awesome. Brad, I have to back up everything that you've said too. When I first heard this when I was a young fellow, I was blown away. It's an incredible number, isn't it? Billy's never hidden the fact that he was a Peter Green fan. He's never hidden the fact that the Blues Breaker album and Peter Green, Eric Clapton, these English guys had a huge influence on him when he was a young guy, and he talks about that, and he plays really well in this gig as well. So, to hear that reverb in the end of the song that my co-hosts have been talking about is very much something that that they were doing in that the Boston Tea Party album. Drenching their numbers in reverb. The tonality, the touch, the Rock Professor said it all. The vocals is just incredible. It's a masterclass. It's a homage, isn't it, to, in my opinion, back to, these English guys, just as much as it is, a Texas American blues kind of thing. Again, wonderful how these American guys, Brad and Simon, are taking the English experiment, the English concept, and just quickly turning it into their own and blowing us away. This is one of my favourite ZZ Top songs, Brad, and I think you and I have spoken about this a few times. It's just fantastic. I love the rakes, those rake notes that he gets. I don't know what he calls the rake notes, but maybe we should invent a name. We should invent a name for
rake
for
notes.
It.
There we are. That's it.
Yeah. It's just phenomenal. Go and listen to this track, folks, if you're watching on a replay and you're just interested in what we're saying. If you haven't listened to this track, please do. I have to Brad score this as well. It's a phenomenal track. It's a pleasure just talking about this track with you guys. It's mind-blowing song. Simon.
Yeah. Oh, cool. I'm glad other people feel the same way as I do about it. It's sometimes you listen to these things in isolation and you think, well, I think it's really good. I've no idea if anybody else does, but yeah, it's a fantastic song, and I think that one of their classics. I don't know if they seem to play it much, do they? I mean, I've not heard them playing it much. Since then, I don't seem to dig it out. Maybe not a concert.
Nah, they do a lot of rock stuff now. A lot of the.
Yes, they've got hits.
Bookie Chili.
They've got hits.
But you've got to go and listen to Live in Texas on DVD.
Oh.
That
Yes.
they do it there, Simon, and my goodness.
Oh, do they? Oh, cool. Oh,
Yes.
fantastic. Oh, goodness. Yeah.
Go and listen to that. That's your homework, folks.
Homework. Here we come. Yes, more homework. Yes, boss. So anyway, that moving right along. The next track is Balinese, which is apparently the Balinese Room was a famous nightclub in Galveston Island in Texas. In the 40s and 50s, it was a place of top entertainment. Frank Sinatra played there, so it must be top entertainment, and illegal gambling. There we are, two staples for you. It's again another classic ZZ Top opening riff, isn't it? And then around a shuffle beat and a classic blues structure. I like the chorus where they both sing. Brad, you've talked about that when they sing together, and I'd say that they never missed a chance of a good hook, do they? The Top, it was down at the Balinese, da da da. It sticks in the old mind, doesn't it? A soundworm, and again, it's got that two rhythm guitar thing, one in each speaker, and you can clearly hear them if you play it on a stereo or listen to it on headphones. They're definitely there as a pair of things. Great solo, 149. Again, another fine solo, and again, it's a 2.5 minute song, not to outstaying their welcome and stuff. I gave this an 8 out of 10 for me, but never a skip. Absolutely not. It's great to, coming after Blue Jean Blues. That's tricky, isn't it? And I think it holds up well for this. And there's a contrast to it with that short, kind of punchy, for up tempo song. Sorry, Brad.
Yeah, well, Balinese. It's a very tough, meaty track. It adds a different dimension to the album again. It's a showcase for Billy Gibbons' guitar skills. He's got some intricate melodic guitar work going on this. Great vocal and backing vocals. Like you said, Simon, with Billy and Dusty's vocals, fantastic. I have to say, Billy's guitar tone on this track is just fantastic. Catchy riff, the band are performing outstandingly, and a great solo from Billy. It's a track that gets a bit lost and swamped in amongst a lot of ZZ Top's hits. When people talk about ZZ Top and they make playlists and greatest hits and all that, this song definitely gets lost, but it's a fantastic track. On the album, I've given it 8.5 out of 10, and definitely never a skip for me. Andrew.
Yeah, I agree, folks. Thank you for the Rock Professor telling us what it was, because when we were young guys, we thought it was a type of reefer. Balinese.
What, from Bali? Yes.
Yeah. We thought it was like a Balinese reefer, something, That's
jazz cigarette.
Clearly, it's not.
Clearly.
Look, Brad, you've nailed it on the head, haven't you? This has got that Texas aspect, these Texas elements to this song. I love that kind of chug that they've got. I'm not going to call it a Chuck Berry chug, but they've got a kind of a chug going on this song as well. So I can see how. I'm not going to call this a deep cut. I can see how this might get lost in the scheme of things. It's not a great song. I've given it an 8 out of 10. It certainly has that charismatic aspect to a lot of the ZZ Top songs, the vocals and the guitar tone. But, the Rock Professor mentioned it's got a hook, but quite doesn't have that punch that a lot of other ZZ Top songs have. So, it's a kind of song, Simon. A kind of song.
You saying it's not a top ZZ Top song?
No, it's a kind of song.
Kinda. See, I wrote down deep cut. You see, and then you said it wasn't a deep cut. Disappointed. thing. But no, I think that's fair. I think absolutely fair about that. So the next track is Mexican Blackbird, which is a slow blues again, another kind of slow blues. They're contrasting the tempos, but between the songs. I presume there's something conscious about in the programming about that fast, slow, fast, slow, fast, slow kind of thing. Slide guitar this time.
Spaghetti sauce. Sorry.
I know, that's lovely, isn't it? It's great. It's spaghetti sauce. That's all that. But, put some Balinese on my spaghetti. Mixed it up.
Oh, Lord.
No, this is not a cookery show. Stop that now. Oh, dear. So, yes, Mexican Blackbird. It's slow blues. Got a slide guitar and two normal guitars, so it's got some clear overdubbing going on here. And I think what makes this song more than anything else is the kind of those classic humorous ZZ Top asides, isn't it? Like let's drive that old Chrysler to Mexico, boy, as the intro to this solo, and I said keep your hands on the wheel there, and stuff that makes me smile every time I hear it, and it's definitely, it's about a woman in a restaurant, isn't it, or a bar being a dancer, it's fantastic, and as I say, it's got that classic kind of ZZ Top kind of tongue-in-cheek humor to it about very cheeky lyrics and stuff, and a harmonica solo, guitar and harmonica solo, I do believe. At the end, to give it some extra interest, I gave this 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip. It's classic ZZ Top humorous, blues song. Great stuff. Brad.
Yeah, Mexican Blackbird. I mean, it incorporates the elements of what I call Tex-Mex music. It's blending the Mexican influences into Texas music, into blues, and it's a humorous lyric. It's a testament to ZZ Top's ability to infuse storytelling into blues rock as well. The way they do this storytelling, and that's what makes the song humorous, because they do this so well, and some great slide guitar playing from Billy, but even their playing and the swagger of their playing is quite humorous. It's like they're not taking themselves too seriously in this track. They're in tune with the lyrical content is what I'm trying to say. And Dusty and Frank keep the song swaggering along. It's not fast. It's just got like a nice swagger to it. I definitely give the song an 8.5 out of 10 and never a skip for me as well. Andrew.
People are hungry in the chat, You mentioned spaghetti sauce. Now people want spaghetti.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so what happens? What happens, folks, if I show something like this? Is this going to bring any like bad habits to the?
Is it? It's done so well.
Just saying. Not saying that we've got anybody like that in this chat, but you don't know.
Those were my wild younger days. I've given all that up now.
You don't know. You don't know what these people in the chat might be doing, mate, right now after showing that pic.
Andrew, he's lying.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's all bullshit. Don't believe a word. Look, guys, you guys are awesome. Thank you. Mexican Blackbird. So I'm going to talk about the classic slide tone that's going on this track. What's really interesting about this, Brad and Simon, is that it's a nice clean tone. That they've got. He's not playing this overdriven, which is something that you might expect him to do when it came to playing slide. I love the humour in the lyrics as well that you guys have mentioned, Simon and Brad. It's always a fantastic part of this band, isn't it? I don't think I picked up on it again when I was a young fellow. But as you get older and you realise, oh my gosh, there's other things going on here. Who plays the harp?
I'm not sure. Not sure.
I don't know.
I reckon
I'm not.
the slide guitar, Andrew, to touch on the tone of it, is a Telecaster as well. Sounds to me like.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's either you're right. It's a single coil. It's either a Strat or a Telecaster. You're right. And it's an interesting contrast, isn't it, to the crunchiness of the band with Billy's humbuckers, and I love that. Are we going to? So, you reckon Frank plays the harmonica, Simon?
For Frank while drumming, yes, yeah. Like Frank, he's got one of those frames, and he like flips it up. No, I don't think it's it. I don't know whether it's Dusty Hill or whether it's Billy Gibbons, to be honest. But
it's obviously
I like the idea of it. That's fantastic. Frank's playing the harmonica.
Oh, I don't know. Oh, just thought being the rock professor, you might know.
No.
Knock it off.
Yeah. Look, I've given this a little bit higher mark than you guys. I've given it a 9 out of 10, only because I love the fact, Brad, that it's got that single coil tone going on here, and I love. I'm not going to say it's a gentle, delicate slide, but it's a surprise to hear this, in contrast to and every other ZZ Top song. Rock Professor.
Definitely, yeah. I love the look. She's hot as a pepper, as smooth as a Mexican brew.
Yeah.
Oh, cheers me up no end every time I hear it, which is never a bad thing, is it? It's very cool. Maybe a trifle for
you know what?
But...
I'm gonna share a story with you guys, and this is for guys only. So if you're girls in the chat, block your ears. This is for guys only. Okay, this is really cool. So if it's Valentine's Day, or it's a birthday, or if it's Christmas, if you write in the card to my Red Hot Chili Pepper and then sign it, you'll get a Red Hot Chili Pepper in return. Trust me.
Not sure how to take that.
Brad knows exactly what I'm talking about.
And if there was ever a classic blues line, that's it. I bet you think you know what I'm talking about. Yes.
How. Yeah.
Oh, yes, completely. Yes.
To my Red Hot Chili Pepper. Anyway, sorry for letting me spill the beans.
Yes. Well done for keeping it this side of it's risque. Oh dear. So anyway, the next track, penultimate track, is "Heard It on the X," which is a song which is a tribute to the Border Blast radio stations in Mexico. I read specifically the two that were run by the famous disc jockey Wolfman Jack. XERF via Acuna, Nil Del Rio, Texas, and XERB in Rosarito Beach near Tijuana. Mexican radio stations did not have to adhere to the power limits of US stations, which gave them the ability to pump their signal well into the United States. Apparently, they could put out 150,000 watts of power. Ooh, I don't even know what that means in terms of how far it goes. But apparently it could be heard in 44 states and parts of Canada. Now, that's what I call reach, kids. And Dusty Hill said that they sell segments to anybody. So there are a lot of preachers on there. I heard them one time selling autographed prayer cloths, they were to put on your radio when you're listening to these programs. But this one was autographed by Jesus himself. There we are, you see. Who knew? Jesus had a whole line of merchandising. Then you'd hear a 15-minute country and western show. Then there'd be a blues show. You could just buy your slot and do whatever. They didn't have a whole lot of restrictions. So, as we can see, the first line of the song, the first couple of lines of, do you remember back in 1966, Country Jesus, Hillbilly Blues, that's where I learned my licks, is definitely a tribute to that, to those border blaster stations and what they heard on them, and backing up what Dusty Hill said. Again, it's another kind of faster song. This quite fast, in fact. Pretty fast drums, definitely, quick drumming from Frank Beard, but with a steady driving bass. And then I think the verse, they have 2 lines by Billy and then 2 lines by Dusty Hill. I may have gotten around the wrong way, but so you have that kind of, and then the chorus sung together. Solo over 2 rhythm guitars, wah-wah solo, definitely a bit of pitch fluctuation there.
Hey, Todd.
And yes, good morning, Todd Flowers. How you doing? Hope you're good. Nice to see you. And you've got that one rhythm guitar straight and the other a wah-wah thing, and of course classic stop near the end, and then back into the fade. I gave this, it's no one of their kind of story songs, isn't it? Things they remember from their youths, their sort of formative years. I gave this 8 out of 10, but never a skip.
All right, 8 out of 10.
Calm yourself. I'm in charge. I'm allowed to give it an 8 out of 10. While everyone else is giving it a Brad score. Yeah, all right, okay.
I'm surprised.
Well, Brad, over to you.
I'm surprised at the 8 out of 10, but okay. Heard it on the
strong.
It's a strong 8. Okay, well that's okay. That's okay. It's not a timeout song, but it's damn close. All right. Heard it on the X. This is an absolutely rocking track. I think this is, for this period of ZZ Top, it's one of their finest tunes. It's got a real driving rhythm, catchy chorus. The song, as Simon mentioned, it pays tribute to the Mexican border radio station, or the X. They played significant role in popularizing rock music. Great vocals, as Simon said, from both from Dusty and Billy. I'm hearing a strat tone on this song, very much a Stratocaster there. How good is the band on this song, though? Like, the band are just, they're at the top of their game here. I love the hand claps in the solo section. Yeah, love that section. Billy employs the wah pedal, like you said. I love that stop, and the ending is just great. I think it's a fantastic song. I think it's the way they played it live is great too, but this recording of it is sensational. I gave it 100 out of 10. It's never a skip for me, and it's one of ZZ Top tracks as well. So, sorry, Simon.
No, it's fine.
Andrew.
Yes. Andrew's going to give it 100 out of 10 too, and I'm going to be in the doghouse.
Look, it's a fantastic song, isn't it? And Brad's already mentioned, the vocals between Dusty and Billy on this is fantastic. You got that snare snap from Frank. He kills it on this track, Brad, doesn't he? It's just phenomenal. The way that he just propels this song. I'm glad that you guys mentioned the history of it too. Back in the early 80s, there was a band called Wall of Voodoo, and it had a famous song called I'm on a Mexican Radio. And that's what kind of gave us a bit of an understanding back here of the importance of these Mexican radio stations, as the rock professor said, and propelling a lot of rock and roll music for a lot of people around that Texas area and beyond, that probably doesn't get discussed a lot, when you consider, some stations weren't playing some music, Brad, types of music, and you could hook into the X and hear a lot of this classic stuff. So, you know, good on the Mexicans, you know, for doing that, for blasting rock and roll, you know. Blast it. I'm glad they're not next door to me, though, Brad.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad you're not next to me. I'm glad you don't live next to me.
You'd enjoy
all
the
of those
music
things
coming
in the
from my
background.
living room. You'd enjoy the music coming from
Well, it's those Buddy Marshalls behind you that I'm worried about, brother.
Yeah, no, you don't want to hear them, mate. I can't, you know, you don't want to hear them.
Look, I've given this a 9 out of 10, Brad. I originally gave it a 10, but this morning when I went through and checked my scores, I'm going to give it a 9. But the star on this track, Brad and Simon, for me is Frank Beard. He's the star on this track. Rock Professor.
Yeah. Oh dear, I have to do some revision now. Well, I'm revising up in light of my things. No, that's good. So the last track is the mighty Tush, of course, Tush. So in an '85 interview with Spin magazine, Dusty Hill explained, "Tush, where I grew up, has two meanings. It means what it means in New York." Yeah, okay, Frank. It also means like plush, very lavish, very luxurious. Depends on how you use it. Okay, so that's classic ZZ Top, isn't it? Sort of a bit of tongue-in-cheek humour, double entendre stuff. Apparently, I also discovered that Billy Gibbons plays, I love this understatement, Billy Gibbons played a Les Paul guitar on this track through a 1969 Marshall Super Lead 100 watt. A Gibson Les Paul. No, play Pearly Gates through it. You know, anybody... any old Les Paul that I've got lying around. You may have others, but he also used an unusual processing device called a Cooper Time Cube. He explained in Guitar World magazine, in a small rack-mounted can sits a small speaker right up next to maybe 50 feet of 1-inch rubber tubing, which is coiled spring-like. I'll try and find a picture of it in a minute. The sound waves actually take longer to travel, having made to make these corners, creating a type of delay, which is quite unlike the familiar sound of digital delay. Some of the guitar sound that appears to be doubled on the early albums are actually the byproduct of the oddball Cooper Time Cube. So it's, I mean, as I said earlier, I've played this. Thank you, John. Yes, classic riff. I've played this in lots in my bands for years. And that's bona fide classic riff, great verses sung by Hill, 2 rhythm guitars, slide solo, and then a second solo that plays great stuff. And this, to me, this is all really about the 2 solos. You know, it's really about showing off Billy Gibbons at his best, doing a short, sharp blues solos. You know, couple of verses to break it up, but you know, a fast, great song to end. I think for me, a ZZ Top classic, 10 out of 10, never a skip. Absolutely. If you don't, everyone will know it. It's one of their classics and all their hits and everything. So, you know, Brad.
Well, I want to think of Tush as what I think it is. I don't want to think of it as anything else. And it's arguably probably the most iconic track from ZZ Top, and definitely from this album anyway. And it's a memorable, simple riff, but it's very straightforward. It's got that bluesy sort of feel to it. It's got that swagger. I like the little chromatic run up, like when it does that. And as for most, those chromatic runs are just, you know, it's not a typical, it is a typical blues turnaround, but they put the ZZ Top stamp into the sound of this. Dusty's voice is unbelievable. The band are absolutely on fire in this track. Great slide playing from Billy on both solos. And I put here, definitely sounds like it's Pearly for me. The music in this is just driving. It's so much energy. Frank Beard on this drumming on this track is outstanding. It's almost impossible to rank this track without giving it 100 out of 10, but I have to give it 100 out of 10, never a skip. It's a iconic song. as you said, Simon, it's a cover band song that everyone plays it, and it's got that party vibe. Everyone gets up and dances to this, mate. If people don't get up and move to this, then they need their pulse checked. Andrew.
Yeah, you guys are right, and again, thank you for your contributions and your thoughts on the song, because it is a epic song, isn't it? It's a classic ZZ Top song, as Brad said, and the Rock Professor. You know, that blues turnaround. You know, it's look, I'm not going to be disrespectful, and when I say this. But you know, you can play it. You know, if you're learning to play the guitar, you can play rhythm along to this guitar. You know, the song, Brad, and go, wow. You know, I've achieved something. The ingredient, though, the reason why this is a Brad Score song, is because of the way that these cats are playing it. You know, and the fact that they're together playing it. You've mentioned the slide; it's fantastic. Definitely the Les Paul or a Les Paul. Yeah, 100%. It's not a Stratocaster. It's the perfect vocal, perfect guitar tone, perfect bass and drums for ZZ Top. When I was a young guy listening to this with my mates, you know, there was no such thing as classic rock or classic radio. I've mentioned this before, Brad and Simon. But, you know, I hear this song like Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven 5, maybe 10 times a week. You know, it's on classic radio. Never get sick of it. And you've hit the nail on the head too. You know, this is a song that a lot of people know. And I think I know what tush is too. I don't call it tush, you know, like the English. We call it tush, and it's not tush.
Yeah. Okay.
It's
Yes.
tush.
All right. Tush.
Tush.
Yeah.
But we're in a West Country here. Tush here, mate.
Tush.
Tush. No tush here, mate. Isn't it? Is it? I'm from the West Country of England. It's called tush here.
Tush. Yes. But whatever it is, it's great.
Oh yeah.
Whatever
it is. Great song. It's a killer song. It's a Brad Score.
Yeah. Just Andrew, if you could isolate me, I'll just show you some pictures. I've got some pictures of the Cooper time cube, which is quite cool. So that's the outside of it. You can see it is those two parts of it. Hold on, I'll just go. So you can see it set up there with this big kind of box thing and a little rack mount thing. And inside the box is the tubing, literally tubing that goes round and round and round. And there you go. That's the three components of the Cooper time cube. Yes, I never would have quite guessed it was that from the description, but yeah. So that's what it does. So that ends the mighty Fandango from the mighty ZZ Top.
Wow.
I've really enjoyed listening to it again this week. It's been a fantastic fun. It's, as I say, it's the first ZZ Top album I bought, so it holds a special place. It's got some great songs on it. You know, it's, as I said, it doesn't, you know, I don't feel like it's 30 minutes long. I feel like it's long enough. It does exactly what it should do. You know, it's got great short punchy songs on side 2 and the live excitement on side 1 as a contrast. I think that works really well, the contrast between the two things. Yeah. I think it's you know, has some fantastic tracks on it, you know, bit unsung really, to you know, slightly less well-known stuff, but I think are fantastic. And you know, and it has Blue Jean Blues on it, which is one of the greatest for me. That slow blues thing is just brilliant. So I loved it.
Great album, great album, Andrew and Simon. Great album.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's
yeah, I agree. I think it deserves its own playlist now. I think that's about half a dozen ZZ Top albums we've done.
Oh yeah, we've done a few now.
We've done the first one. We've done Tres Hombres.
We've done Eliminator.
We've done Eliminator. And you did the Raw one, didn't you? Without me.
How dare we?
Holly's got a bar of knees.
Yeah. A bolognese. Down at the bolognese.
Oh, bolognese.
Down at the bolognese. It was down at the bolognese, not quite the thing.
If you guys have got to 1:50 on replay watching us, hanging out with us, it's always a pleasure that you are even interested in watching what we do here. Not only the Rock Professor, Brad and I, but everybody in the chat, because if you're not watching this on replay with the chat running at the same time and reading the chat, please do, because the chat is just as part of the show as the three guys here and any co-hosts that we have on. And we ask you please to go and subscribe to our channels page. I noticed, Brad, you've picked up a couple of subs over the last couple of weeks on your YouTube channel as well.
Yeah.
So please go and subscribe to our friends there.
Yep.
Brad, have you got the chat up? Do you want to go and do a shout out to everybody at the end? Shall I let people know the album that I'm going to select for next week for us today?
I was just about to say, you might as well announce it so everyone can start doing their homework. And
okay.
Oh, I know what it is.
Yes.
You know what it is.
Last week. I do know.
Yeah. So there is a connection with the channel. Jimmy Page has played with this band, done some great, outstanding stuff. The guitar player is heavily influenced by Keith Richards. We've done one of the. I think we've done their debut album, haven't we? We've done their debut album. This is their second album. Came out in '92, 31 years ago. Holy cow! So we're doing the Black Crowes, Southern Harmony, and the Musical Companion.
Yeah, one of my all-time favorite albums. Andrew, I'm so glad you picked it, because I remember buying the album. I had Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 in my car.
Yep.
From Guns N' Roses, and I had this album, and I fell in love with this album over and over and over again. Mark Ford's just an incredible guitar player. There's just some incredible music on this, so I'm really looking forward to you leading this one, Andrew. That's for sure.
Yeah, and we're going to do the standard album too, folks, like we always do. It's not the re-release or anything like that, or any of the, because they've re-released it, I understand, or there's a new packaging coming out for it. But yeah, it's an important album. Certainly an album that sounded completely by itself. In 91, 92, when it came out, it was, had its own unique album, its own tone, its own vibe going on. So I look forward to talking about that. If you want to hang out with us and talk about that album, we look forward to it.
100%.
Cool.
Rock Professor, thank you for picking this album. Brad, you got the chat up?
Yes, I'm just going to quickly go through and say thank you for joining us, everyone. Derek Clapton, good old Eric Clapton, Derek Clapton, Clapton in there. Ellen Toll, my mother Ellen, is in the chat. Holly Lewis, thank you for joining us, Holly, as per usual. Gretch Zeppelin, Jonas Halberg, thank you for joining us. We have got, we had Jazz Thunder 50 in here. We really appreciate you joining us again, Jim. Greg Roberts Tune, thank you for joining us. We have Bob Dopolina. I hope I'm pronouncing that properly, Bob. So Bob Dopolina.
He's a mate of mine.
So there you go.
Yeah.
G. Becknoff, thank you for joining us. We have John. How could I forget John ZD351? He joined us in the chat. As it's good to have John in there with his cheeky comments as usual. We had there's Simon Williams. Obviously, we know the Rock Professor. He should be in timeout right now. I'm joking. There was quite a few people here chatting, which is really good to see. I know there was a few people coming up towards the end of this chat, so just give me 2 seconds. I'm coming up to them now. I didn't write them down. Yeah, I think I've got everyone Am I missing anyone, guys? Sorry, guys. My
No,
chat's
you got
going
everyone,
up.
bro.
Moto
Sounds
Mining,
like
thank you
going.
for joining us. Moto Mining, I
Yeah.
didn't want to miss you because you had quite a contribution there. And Ryan Hall, wanted to mention,
Ryan?
thank you for joining us, Ryan. And I
Todd
think I've got everyone.
Flowers.
Yes,
Nice to
yes,
see you,
sorry.
Todd.
Yes. And I think I've got everyone. But if I have forgotten you, it's Tim Thomas. I think I've mentioned you before. But if I haven't mentioned you, I do apologize. But thank you for joining us. And we do read all of your chats. We definitely do after the show as well, because sometimes we miss a lot of them while we're chatting away online here. But thank you so much for joining us. But I do want to also ask everyone to do us a huge favor, and please share our channel. Help us get to 10,000 by the end of the year. We'd love to get there. Help us get more subscriptions. We can't do it without your help. So we will have a big celebration at 10,000, no doubt. But I hope you don't mind me mentioning that, Andrew. But please please subscribe. Anyone that's watching this, if you've got to this point and you love it, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And everyone, please give us a thumbs up.
I'm going to share another story with you folks before we go. I've got to share another story. So a friend of mine who you guys know, his name is Carl. Anyway, we were talking during the week, and we were talking about Johnny Cash.
Who?
Johnny. I don't know how Johnny Cash came into the conversation, but anyway, who's ever going to miss not talking about Johnny Cash if he ever becomes a subject of a conversation? Like me. So we're talking, and he goes, what's Simon's handle? And I said, what do you mean, what's his handle? He goes, what's his handle? And I said, oh, the rock professor. He goes, yeah. And so I go, oh, okay. So when he asks the question, there's a story coming. So I said, you know how Johnny Cash had Johnny Cash and the Tennessee 2? I said, yeah. He goes, the rock professor and the terrible 2. and I said, bro, that stink. That's so stink, bro. That stink. But I'm gonna tell people, because somebody might think that's quite cool, but I think it stink.
So tell him how easily he forgets. How many shows did we do together? Honestly, we're not as good enough.
So Brad, the terrible 2. Yeah.
The terrible 2.
Yeah.
Well, we do like to call ourselves rat bags at times anyway, so it sort of falls in line with the terrible 2. Double trouble,
Yeah, I would have preferred that.
Does that make me Stevie Ray Vaughan?
Yes.
No.
What about Simon Rock Professor and Double Trouble? No.
Yeah. What about Double
Simon
Trouble
T.
and
Williams.
the Rock Professor?
Yes, that's more like it. Yeah. Well, you're Stevie Ray Vaughan and you've got Simon T. Williams and Double Trouble. See, it's almost uncanny how close it is.
All right. Here we go.
Yeah.
We're out. Bye. We're going.
See you guys.
Rock Professor and the terrible 2. Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. Take care. See you next week.